Let me start by saying this. I didn't believe in ghosts, not until I saw her. And trust me, you don't want to see what I saw. It all began with a dare. My friends and I were sitting around our usual campfire spot one Friday night, laughing about the old stories people tell about Blackwood Forest, the abandoned stretch of woods that borders my town. You've probably heard them too. Kids go missing. Strange noises echo through the trees at night. And there's always talk of the lady in black who roams the forest looking for victims to drag back into the shadows. We laughed it off like everyone else does. But deep down, we all knew something wasn't right about that place. Anyway, someone dared me to spend the night in Blackwood Forest alone. At first, I brushed it off, but then they started calling me chicken. And you know how pride works. It gets the better of you sometimes. So, against every ounce of common sense I had, I agreed. I told myself it would be fine. Just a dumb prank, nothing more. How wrong I was. The sun was setting as I walked into the forest, flashlight in hand. It felt eerie from the moment I stepped under the canopy. The air was colder than it should have been, and the silence was oppressive, like nature itself was holding its breath. Every step I took crunched on fallen leaves, each sound amplified tenfold in the stillness. I set up my little camp near an old tree stump, far enough from the edge so no one could sneak up on me, but close enough that I could make a run for it if things got bad. Yeah, even then, part of me thought this might not end well. I lit a small fire, wrapped myself in a blanket, and tried to act casual while scanning the darkness around me. That's when I heard the whisper. At first, I thought it was just the wind rustling through the branches above me, but then it came again, faint but unmistakable. A voice, low and raspy, barely audible over the crackle of my fire. "Help me," it said. My blood ran cold. I froze, heart pounding as I turned my flashlight toward where the sound seemed to come from. Nothing. Just empty trees and shadows dancing in the flickering light. I told myself it was probably some animal, or maybe even my imagination playing tricks on me. But deep down I knew it wasn't either of those things. Hours passed, and the whispers grew louder. They weren't random anymore. They formed words now, words I couldn't ignore. "Find me," it would say, followed by soft sobs that sent chills crawling down my spine. Each time I'd shine my flashlight into the darkness, hoping to catch whatever or whoever was out there. But there was never anything to see. By midnight I was shaking so hard I could barely hold the flashlight steady. The temperature had dropped drastically, and frost was forming on the ground despite it being late spring. My breath came out in visible puffs, and the fire I'd built hours earlier was dying fast, no matter how much wood I threw onto it. Then she appeared. She moved silently between the trees, her figure barely visible in the dim moonlight filtering through the canopy. She wore a long, tattered black dress that clung to her skeletal frame, and her hair hung in matted strands around her face. Her skin, if you could call it that, was pale gray, almost translucent, and her eyes, God, her eyes, they glowed faintly, like embers smoldering in the dark, filled with an unbearable sadness and rage. She stopped just beyond the reach of my dying fire, staring straight at me. Her lips parted slightly, and though no sound came out, I heard her voice inside my head. "You shouldn't be here." I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything, but my body wouldn't obey. I was frozen, trapped in her gaze as she slowly began to approach. With each step, the world around me seemed to grow darker, colder. The fire sputtered and went out completely, plunging me into near total blackness. All I could see was her, floating closer, her feet never touching the ground. When she finally stood inches away from me, I smelled a putrid mix of earth and decay, like she'd crawled out of a grave. She reached out a bony hand and touched my cheek. Her touch was ice cold, burning like frostbite, and I swear I felt something brush against my mind, probing, searching. And then she spoke aloud, her voice echoing unnaturally in the silence. "Leave now, or stay forever." I don't remember getting up. I don't remember running. All I know is that I woke up the next morning outside the forest, lying in the dirt with scratches covering my arms and legs. My flashlight was gone, my phone dead, and my clothes torn and muddy. For days afterward, I couldn't sleep without seeing her face in my dreams, hearing her voice whispering in my ear. But here's the thing, I didn't leave Blackwood Forest unscathed. Something followed me home. Sometimes, late at night, I hear footsteps in the hallway outside my room. Other times, I'll wake up to find the scent of damp soil lingering in the air. And occasionally, when I least expect it, I'll catch a glimpse of her reflection in the mirror behind me, watching me with those glowing eyes. I don't know why she let me go that night. Maybe she thought I'd learned my lesson. Or maybe she's just biding her time, waiting for the perfect moment to drag me back into the forest with her. If you're thinking about going into Blackwood Forest, don't. Whatever you do, don't go looking for her. Because once she finds you, she never lets you go. It's been 2 weeks since that night in Blackwood Forest, but I haven't slept a wink. Every time I close my eyes, I see her, the lady in black. Her hollow face haunts me. Her whispers slither into my dreams like venomous snakes. I thought leaving the forest would save me, that I'd escaped her grasp forever. But I was wrong. So very wrong. The first sign came on the 3rd day after my return. I woke up to find muddy footprints leading from my bedroom door to my bed. They weren't mine. I don't wear shoes to sleep. And they smelled faintly of wet earth, just like her. When I tried to clean them, they reappeared within minutes, darker and more distinct this time. That's when I realized she wasn't done with me. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I needed answers. What did she want? Why had she let me leave only to follow me home? And most importantly, how could I stop her? So, I went back to the source, Blackwood Forest. This time, I didn't go alone. I convinced Sarah, my best friend since childhood, to come with me. She's always been skeptical about the supernatural, so getting her to agree wasn't easy. But I told her everything about the whispers, the cold touch, the glowing eyes, and eventually, curiosity got the better of her. "Fine," she said reluctantly. "But if we die out there, I'm haunting your ass." We entered the forest at dusk, armed with flashlights, recording equipment, and a healthy dose of fear. The air felt heavier than before, pressing down on us like an invisible weight. Even Sarah, who usually jokes around to lighten the mood, stayed silent as we ventured deeper into the woods. About half an hour in, we found it an old, crumbling cabin hidden among the trees. Its windows were shattered, its walls covered in moss and vines. Something about it felt off, like it didn't belong here. Despite my instincts screaming at me to turn back, I pushed the creaking door open and stepped inside. The interior was even worse than I expected. The floorboards groaned under our weight, and the smell of decay was overwhelming. In the center of the room stood a rickety wooden table, its surface stained with what looked suspiciously like dried blood. On the far wall, someone or something had carved a series of symbols into the wood. They pulsed faintly in the dim light, as though alive. Sarah pointed her flashlight at the symbols. "What do you think these mean?" she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Before I could answer, the temperature plummeted. Frost spread across the walls and the symbols began to glow brighter, casting eerie shadows across the room. Then we heard a low, guttural growl that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. "Get behind me," I hissed, grabbing a rusted iron poker leaning against the fireplace. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold it steady. The growling grew louder, accompanied by the sound of footsteps approaching from outside. Slowly, deliberately, the front door creaked open, revealing her, the lady in black. Only this time, she wasn't alone. Behind her floated 3 ghostly figures, their faces twisted in agony. Their mouths moved silently, pleading for help or revenge. The lady raised a skeletal hand and pointed directly at me. Her lips curled into a cruel smile as she spoke, her voice echoing through the cabin like thunder. "You shouldn't have come back." Without warning, the ghosts lunged toward us, their translucent forms passing through furniture and walls as if they weren't there. Sarah screamed and bolted for the door, but one of the spirits grabbed her ankle, yanking her to the ground. She clawed at the floorboards, trying desperately to escape, but it was no use. The spirit dragged her toward the glowing symbols on the wall. "No," I shouted, swinging the poker wildly. It passed harmlessly through the ghost, doing nothing to stop it. Panicked, I turned to the lady in black. "Please, let her go." Her glowing eyes bore into mine, filled with malice and sorrow. "She shouldn't have followed you," she said coldly. With a flick of her wrist, the other 2 spirits pinned me against the wall, holding me immobile as I watched in horror. Sarah screamed again as the symbol on the wall began to pulse violently. The air crackled with energy, and a blinding light filled the room. When it faded, Sarah was gone. Just gone. There was no trace of her, not even a footprint in the dust. Tears streamed down my face as I stared at the empty space where she'd been moments before. "Why are you doing this?" I sobbed, my voice breaking. "What do you want from me?" The lady tilted her head, studying me like a predator sizing up its prey. "You'll understand soon enough," she said softly. Then she vanished, leaving me alone in the freezing silent cabin. I stumbled out of the forest hours later, drenched in sweat and shaking uncontrollably. No one believed me when I told them what happened to Sarah. They said she probably ran off or got lost in the woods. But I know the truth. I saw her taken, pulled into whatever hellish dimension the lady in black calls home. Now, every night, I hear Sarah's voice whispering my name. Sometimes, I catch glimpses of her face in the mirror, pale and gaunt, standing beside the lady in black. They're watching me, waiting for me to slip up, to make another mistake, because sooner or later, I'll have to go back. The lady made that clear. She won't rest until I join her and Sarah in the darkness beneath the trees. And when that happens, well, let's just say I won't be coming back.